Hello everybody, and welcome to AmateurCast. We're getting you and your replays to be casted for my entertainment, and hopefully to help you improve a little bit as well. I'm your host, ZookaMan, and we're going to be going into a TVP. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our players. In the bottom left-hand side of the map, Overgrowth Ladder Edition, we have Dusts, the very own theWalrus. And his opponent on the opposite side of the map, in the blue from clan, the Gamers of Brazil, I believe, according to this nice little floaty icon. Provided casters with your clan name since whenever they were introduced, which I think was either last year or the year before. But in any case, we have Beelzeboss, I believe is how you pronounce that. I apologize so much if I'm completely butchering that, for lack of a better term. So, as always, let's take a look at the matchup before we get into this game too much further. What's going on? Well, TVP is a very versatile matchup, and a lot of things could happen. I have seen mech versus gateway units. I've seen bio versus gateway units. I've seen bio versus Colossus. I've seen bio versus Colossus Storm. I've seen mech versus... there's a lot of fun stuff that you can see in the matchup for standard, schmandard stuff, but I'm gonna kind of meta game here and don't tell anyone, guys. But the Walrus, I've casted a couple of his games before. I'm a mod on his stream, so I've seen his play a couple of times here or there. So I know that he does prefer to go for a mech play, which means that we'll probably be seeing an earlier factory I know one of the things he likes to do a lot is to go into early Hellions and just abuse the heck out of their early game damage against probe lines, especially when a Protoss player goes for an earlier expansion. Our Protoss is going to be doing all the standard stuff that he likes to do, getting up his Cybernetics core, probably going to drop down a second gas at some point. We could be seeing an earlier Nexus, in fact. It's not unlikely, or we could be seeing a more aggressive opening, 4-gate, a 3-gate robo push. I don't see those a whole lot, but they're still a thing. Of course, you could be also seeing a Stargate into Oracles, or Phoenix possibly as well. But I think you're probably going to be seeing a couple of Stalkers and move up into a Nexus. Pretty standard to see in this matchup. And the Walrus, going on for his factory right about now. This is going to be Hellions because there is a barracks going for the reactor. So they're just going to be going around and switcherooing. There we go. Nice and beautiful. I love when my predictions actually hit home. It's the most exciting thing as a caster. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, I got it right for once. Nexus is coming back home here from our boss Terran player. You see what I did there? He's going to be getting that, and he's going to be just starting up work gate. No extra gateways as of yet, although he is going to add on the second gas and drop down his robotics facility. So he's going to be going for higher tech in the soonish department. Of course, the Walrus is now going to follow this Hellion push out with his proxy starport, and I believe I have seen this a couple of times. I think it's a Hellion move out into a Widow Mine drop, or I also have seen, I think, a elevator with Hellions off of this as well, which is also fairly entertaining. There is going to be a pylon block in the main base to help defend against this. However, if this is going to be an elevator, which it looks like it is because there is going to be a medevac, the pylons really aren't going to be able to do anything. And in fact, might be trapping his units. No, it looks like he stopped one. So the Hellions could move up in here through this little opening here, but they would be restricted to one at a time, and there are a couple of Stalkers to defend against this, so it wouldn't be the best move from the Walrus right now. His best move is to get a couple of extra units, put them into this medevac, and bam, bring him on in. I believe he's probably going to elevator this up over and then move into Banshees, as it looks like he's going to be dropping down Tech Lab. Meanwhile, back home from our Protest player, he's going to be grabbing a couple of additional gateways. And Warp Gate technically finishing up just a little bit here, so he'll be able to defend fairly well against this, assuming that he's able to scout it and do enough time. Couple of mines are going to be going straight for the mineral line over there, while we have the elevator going on into the main base. These are going to be, one is going to go down at least. One stalker is going to die for its troubles, and here comes the Hellions moving on into the main base. Photon Overcharge is going to be immediately popped. We're also going to be seeing a stalker drop down, and there are going to be probe kills coming out here right now, but at the end of the day, not going to be getting a whole lot. Up to 7 workers killed right now, but meanwhile, we have the additional Hellion over here. We're also going to have a Widow Mine, which might have the opportunity to unburrow, come on over here and get another hit off on the probes, but it looks like the boss definitely going to just let that go away. Going to be striking that down with a observer, and meanwhile we're going to be seeing the Walrus move up onto his cloaking and research, as well as one extra Banshee. He already has one on the map, so these are probably going to fly on in and get a bit of damage done to the mineral line to kind of follow up the 7 workers killed, while boss is trying to kind of saturate back up, get a couple of extra probes that he lost. Nowhere is he in the... is he really losing because of this, but he did take a couple of probes, and that is not the best thing to go about. The stalkers are moving out across the map. The medevac is going to pick the Hellions on up and run them away. The Marine is going to very unfortunately die very, very quickly. Cancel is going to be going onto the bunker at the low ground. We do have a siege tank up here, no blink on the stalkers, so this will be pretty much held without too much difficulty. One stalker might go down from the siege tank shots, but it looks like that is good. We do have the Banshee might be moving in. Where's the Banshee at? There's one Banshee on the field. Oop, there they are. Banshees are going to be moving on into the main base right about now, and he's going to be following this up with his engineering base so he can get turrets as well as upgrades. There is an observer up here, and the Photon Overcharge is going to go down, but the Walrus was able to force the Photon Overcharge, which means that there is going to be a little bit more difficult to defend against the Hellions coming up into his mantle right now. They are going to get cleaned up, but every little bit helps, and we're up to 15 workers killed. However, I believe that the Hellions are going to just barely be worth it there. It looks like they're going to be only about 100, less than 100 minerals comparatively to how much damage has been done to his opponent. So not the best use of those, but that's alright. He's going to be moving up onto 4 Banshees right now, and that might be able to go in and get a bit of damage done, assuming that the observer is out of place. Looks like it's going to be put over here, so he's going to be able to spot the Banshees coming in, and hopefully for the Protest player, he reacts fast enough in order to be able to defend and pulls that back when the Banshees come on in. Meanwhile, Protest player is going to try to make probes, get his probes back up, and here come the Banshees coming on in. Stalkers aren't going to be falling back to the Nexus. There is no observer around here, however, the one in the back is going to be coming up, and these Banshees are going to be vulnerable, but the Banshees, they are still going to be able to get a couple of Stalkers for their troubles, and this one may go down. No, that is such a thorn in the Protest's side. If he was able to snipe that down, he would have been in a pretty okay position in defending against future attacks, as there would be one less Banshee. And right now the Walrus not really wanting to commit any more to this, but he is getting a pretty sizable force back home of looks like a couple of Marines tanks. I'm assuming that the Marines are probably going to be for bunkers. Maybe he's doing a Marine tank push, maybe a Marine tank drop behind this. He needs to decloak the Banshees over here, as they're not really going to have as much energy as they probably could have if he had uncloaked them a little bit sooner. That's a bit of a minor mistake. Protoss is going to be gearing up to take his third base. No third base has been yet attempted to be taken by the Walrus. but he also has these Banshees, which, assuming that the Walrus can see that this third base is up, might be able to swing over and kill some transferring probes, which would honestly be fantastic for the Walrus if he was able to snipe that. Boss going to be going for a couple of stalkers over here by the gold base. I think this is to see if he can catch off any more Banshees that are heading over this way. And we're also going to be seeing a transition over into more air-focused things. We have the Fleet Bacon on its way, and yes, I did say bacon because bacon is delicious. I'm assuming this is probably going to be for Tempests, because the Tempests are really good against mech. He's also going to be grabbing his +1 in the air, so he's definitely gearing up to prepare against what Walrus is planning on doing. And if the Walrus can't find a nice enough timing or kill enough probes, he might find himself to be in a little bit of a disadvantage as far as competition is concerned late game, because Tempests and Immortals are very, very good against mech. And when it's just on the ground, you're going to see more of the Immortal count is going to be a bit higher. In the air, we're going to be seeing more Tempests. Either way, you're probably going to want to be seeing Archons. Hold that thought. We're going to having a little bit of pressure down here. Looked like a drop play. Didn't really achieve much. Most of the Marines are going to die. The medevac is very low here as well. But the Banshees are going to try to poke on in. I think most of them died in that engagement. So the Walrus not really going to be able to do a whole lot. And yeah, here come out Tempest right now. Wouldn't mind seeing a Templar Archives go down, start moving up into Archons, maybe move up into a few more Immortals here or there, but it might not be a best idea considering that we're going to be seeing mostly Banshees here from the Walrus. It looks like most of the stuff on the ground is going to be for defense. Of course, as soon as I say that, there is going to be Widow Mines going to be picked up and dropped off probably at his opponent's third or natural. There are cannons at the third, and there is a Tempest in the area between the third and the natural. So I think it might be a better idea to go for the main base. There is one cannon up here, but if he could burrow those fast enough, he might be able to get the shots off. We'll have to kind of see what it is that the Walrus is going to be able to accomplish here. Ooh, looks like he's going to go for the drop play. Maybe, possibly be able to get... Oh, a couple of shots are going to be going off. Lots of probes are going to get killed. Up to about 30 workers go right now for the Walrus, and that's kind of annoying for our Protoss player, who's going to lose quite a few Harvesters in that little engagement. Let's take a look at the upgrades real quick. We do... Ooh, that's not upgrades. Upgrades is G. We do have that one vehicle plating up here for our Terran player. We're going to have, I think, a Widow Mine die over there. And 1-1 from our Protoss player, who's going to have a little bit of an advantage. And he's going to go for armor, which is an interesting decision. Armor really doesn't affect the ground unit, so unless he's going to go for charge lots, I'm not sure exactly what the plan was for this. Back home, maybe he's getting those for the Immortals and Stalkers. Yeah, probably getting those for the Immortals and Stalkers. Although, in all honesty, he's probably going to be relying a bit too much on Stalkers at this point, and not enough of those beefy mechanical units. We do a couple of Stalkers going to be trying to take down this third base, but those are going to be rebuffed by a Planetary Fortress and a Banshee, and that's going to be all good. Meanwhile, we're going to have this little Hellion Hellbat thing going to be dealt with. Nexus was almost about to go down, so Walrus going to definitely be able to keep pressure up on his opponent while he gets his army out, while he gets upgrades out. And that's always the good decision as a mech player, is you want to keep your opponent busy while you build up the army. Tempest Army can continue production right now. I believe we have quite a few of these in the army right now. It would be good to see a couple of Archons start to make their way into this army, and less of a focus on Tempest. Tempests are good, but Archon Storm Tempest it's godly when dealing with mech. So I think it would be good if he added those things into his army. He has the gas and the gas income in order to do so. So hopefully he'll be able to do that. Speaking of which, looks like he's having a massive Harvester lead as he moves up onto his fourth base, despite all the damage that Walrus has been doing to him. But that being said, Walrus has decided that, I can move out, I can trade, and he's going to do exactly that. Moving out with his massive mech army, we do have Templar Archives coming up in the main base right about now, so we're probably going to be seeing Charge as well as, or excuse me, not Charge, Storm as well as Archons coming out. But the question is it not going to come up quick enough? There is going to be a massive engagement here between these two players. Looks like the Tempests are going to go down. The Widowmites are going to be getting up onto the entire ground army. Tanks are going to be setting up in the back. Tempests are going to be in danger of falling. I think that the Protoss player with a couple of extra Warpins and a Photon Overcharge will definitely be able to deal with this, as the Walrus loses most of the rest of his army, showing that Tempests are going to be extremely helpful right now from our Protoss player, but our Terran player should not be counted out yet. He is going to be going up onto additional Vikings, which is a good move against the Tempests, as well as additional Widow Mines, which are going to help with the ground stalkers, as well as cleaning up a couple of the mortals and possibly Archons / High Templar once they start moving up into the army. We're having assorted upgrades coming out. Tutukin finishing up right about now for our Protoss player, and of course Boss going to be just saying that Tempests are not really that cheap. He's just ahead in bases for a while, which is a valid point. He has a Harvester lead on his opponent. Tempests are fairly expensive. I believe they're like 300, 200 if I remember correctly. I think they're right around the price of a carrier or a battlecruiser respectively. Not exactly the cheapest unit in the world, but on 4-base Protoss, you can generally afford some pretty expensive things. Having a 5th base, only coming up for this gold base right now. Meanwhile, our Protoss player is going to be moving down to the bottom left. Excuse me, bottom right. For this base and these tasty, tasty harvesters. Tempests are going to be firing onto that planetary fortress, which is kind of be out of range to fire back. Besides the fact that it doesn't really do well in the whole shooting up department. But we are going to be having an engagement between these two players. Widowmites are being burrowing up and going to be getting almost all of these High Templar down. However, a lot of the ground army from the Walrus is going to go down as well. And a couple of Banshees going to be falling along with that in that engagement. They're going to be having the Tempests be forced back right now, but there is going to be a massive advantage right now against the Walrus as he loses more and more of his army. Both players' army forced back, but our Protoss player definitely going to have the better ability to trade. He's going to be continuing up onto Tempest, which I don't agree with. Tempests are good, but you can never rely too much on just the Tempest. As your opponent starts waiting for a lot of Vikings back home, or goes for Ravens and manages to get Seeker missiles on your army, Tempests are really, really slow. So they can't outrun a lot of the things that our more mobile army of Terran is able to do. So definitely it would be good to add in a couple of extra things and not just go straight Tempest, because that would leave him a bit vulnerable. But it looks like he's going to try to do that, or at the very least go for a large amount of Tempests, producing 3 at a time right now. Which really, at the end of the day, isn't all that cheap. He's going to be going up onto High Templar as well. Our Tempest, or excuse me, our Terran player is on 2-1 right now. Excuse me, 1-2, comparatively to our Protoss opponent's 3-2. We're also going to be seeing a robotics bay right now, which, honestly, there's not really a need for. With the exception of maybe going for observer speed or warp prism speed, there really isn't much need for Colossus right now. So I'm not really sure exactly what that decision was. Excuse me. We're going to be having the Banshee clear out a couple of probes over here, up to 7 workers killed, 8 workers killed. Ooh. Where's the observer? Oh no, the observer! Oh. Poor Banshee. That is an awful way to die. Suddenly have a bunch of just Protoss just smashing into your face. And you exploding instantaneously because... Dang! Tempest hurt. Especially 3-2 Tempest with that massive amount of range. A lot of charge left on the ground right now. Not really necessarily needed for that. We're going to be having the main engagement here. Going to be going on. A lot of units for our Terran player are going to go down by his own Widowmine fire. And along with it, quite a bit of over High Templar. There we go. And charge lots are going to be going down as well. So Boss is going to be having a bit of an advantage, but only in his Tempest when these Vikings move up onto them and the Widowmines get put into place with a bunch of extra damage. A couple of SCVs are going to die there. But Tempests do have their range, and we're going to be seeing, oh my goodness, 4 more being produced at a time. Boss really needs to move away from this mass Tempest strategy. Because if he invests too much in Tempest alone, he's going to find that he's going to be easily dismantled. Because although Tempests have a very large firing range, they're very, very slow. So things like Seeker Missile, Hunter Seeker Missile from the Raven, things like Vikings are able to easily dispatch of them, even when there's a lot of them. And understandably, there are about 17 on the map right now. So it's a bit scary. But I definitely would like to see more. Armor is going to be coming up here from our Protoss player. I believe this is the 3rd installment, so to speak. We do, of course, have Observer Speed coming up as well. Shield upgrades, Storm coming up as well. That's actually a really late Storm for this composition. Oh, I suppose I'm going to just mass Tempest. It's a good idea. Alright, we are having a little bit of an engagement here. Tempests are going to be hiding back. The Vikings are going to be able to get right on top of them. And yeah, they'll be able to kill one. But we do have a PVD here, which is going to help out quite a bit. There are a large number of High Templar, but none of them really have the energy. And the Widowmines are just going to be able to get up on them. And, well, do what the Widowmines do and make armies disappear. Widowmines are going to be burrowing down. A couple more are going to be firing off onto those charge lots. We're going to get cleaned up by this Hellbat force, but there are more zealots where that came from. I believe we have a large population of minerals for our Protoss player at the moment. We are going to be seeing Colossus production starting now, which I kind of understand in order to deal with the Widowmine numbers, but at the same time I think that there's just so many Vikings on the field right now, and especially considering that the Ravens are going to be able to back them up fairly well. I don't see the Colossus being extremely effective. The Tempest I like, the Charge Lots I like, and the High Templar I like, but I don't like the idea of going onto Colossus. It looks like he's just going to get a couple. But even so, we'll have to kind of see how that ends up working out for him. Both players are going to be getting near maxed out. So this could be the engagement that determines the fate of this game. A lot of pressure coming out. We're going to have a storm come up on the charge lots. We're going to have a lot of storms coming up onto these Widowmines who are going to be able to get shots off. And meanwhile, the Vikings are in a very, very good spread right now. So the Protoss player is going to be finding himself in a really wide majority of the word trapped while the rest of these Tempests get cleaned up. And the Storm's just not going to be able to hit like they're supposed to. And now we're going to be seeing Vikings land on the ground. This is something you don't see very often, folks. That's because Vikings on the ground are not very useful. Except when you have the 3-3 and are able to just tear through that Nexus very, very quickly. Stalkers are going down here towards this southern base, this 4th base. And they're just going to kind of back up. I think they're going to be maybe going for this base. They could also go to the north for the gold base. Either way, they would run into a planetary, which you should be able to defend against this, assuming that there is a mass repair pull. Boss going to be trying to find a little bit of a place to poke in, and he's not able to do that very well right now. Right now the Walrus is going to be, actually going to be catching out these stalkers, even going to be pulling back his air unit to help out, and that is going to be an immediate leave from our Protoss player. Oh goodness gracious. Water break. I have a little bit of a sore throat. 1 second, folks. Alright. Now is the time, as always, that we look at what each of these players could have done better, so that they and you can learn a bit for next time. As always, let's start with our losing player, the Protoss player, or as I like to say, the one that did not win. What could he have done better? I definitely think that his tech was behind his opponent, and that may be a little bit more of, this is mech, and mech gets tech very, very early. In fact, it's one of the reasons why mech players prefer the style of play, because you want to get the bigger units up as quickly as possible so that they're as effective as possible. It's a little bit like the opposite of bio, where you're going to be building a lot of units very quickly and pretty much rely on your trading. A mech army doesn't really trade as well, quote unquote, because the army does not produce as quickly as a bio army, for instance, or to a certain extent as well as a Zerg army in general, or a Protoss army in general. And so you're not talking about Skytoss or air from Zerg. So I definitely think the tech being behind was not a good thing for our Protoss opponent. I think that if he had gone for his Storm Tech earlier, and it hit a little bit earlier before the massive Death Army has come out from Walrus, he would have probably been in a bit of a better position. Storm, Archon, Tempest, very, very good against mech. When you're seeing a air unit, or air-centric army, you're probably going to want to go for more Tempests, like we saw in this game, and which is not actually the proper response. And if it's more of a ground-centric army, you probably want to be seeing a more immortal-heavy army with Storm backup, of course. So let's look on over the Walrus. Great amount of pressure on the map very early, kept the Protoss player from feeling very comfortable until it got to the mid-game, where the mech army was able to feel fairly confident in its abilities. So very good job from the Walrus as far as that's concerned. I think that I like this composition, the Widowmine, Viking, Raven, Banshee with Hellbats. Although I'm not too sure that the Widowmines were the best decision. I understand where he's coming from in the sense that PDDs are going to be not as effective against the Tempest, because the Tempest will just be able to back up and pretty much cause the PDDs to be useless. But I don't think that there was a necessity for this many Widowmines. I would have liked to see a more Viking-focused response, as assuming that he could have dodged the storms, and I think that the Widowmines were able to hold off quite a bit of the storms as well as the charge lots. So either way, good job, good game for both players. I do think that will be it for this one, though, guys. Before I go, a few real quick announcements. If you like this cast, please comment, like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like to get your game casted by me, you can send a replay on over to ZookaMan900@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to just get a replay casted and don't mind if it's me, check out the subreddit Cast It, both of which will be in the description below. Really good place to go find new people, to see people who are good at casting, people who are high-level players. This game was from the Diamond League, of course. I have casted a lot of silver, gold, and platinum games from there. It's a really good place just to commute with other people in the StarCraft community. I believe that's going to be it then. So this is ZookaMan, and we'll see you on the next cast. Take care, guys.